Have you ever had a bond with someone so strong it felt like you were sharing one soul? What if that bond became a prison? Today, we're diving into the haunting and perplexing story of June and Jennifer Gibbons, the twins who lived in a world of their own, a world that ultimately demanded a terrible sacrifice. Born in Barbados in 1963 and raised in Wales, June and Jennifer were known as the Silent Twins. From a young age, they refused to speak to anyone, not their parents, not their siblings, not their teachers. The only person they would talk to was each other, and they did so in a private, high-speed language that sounded like chirping birds to outsiders, a language no one could ever decipher. They were inseparable, not just by choice, but almost by some unseen force. Their movements were perfectly synchronized, mirroring each other's every step, every glance, every breath. It was as if they were two bodies controlled by a single mind. This bond was so profound that it was terrifying. Teachers at their school noted that if one twin was sent out of the classroom, the other would become completely immobile, frozen in a catatonic state. It was like unplugging a computer. Their shared operating system would simply shut down. Imagine the frustration of their family trying to connect with these two girls who were physically present, but mentally a million miles away, locked in a private universe that had no room for anyone else. Doctors and psychologists were baffled. They tried everything to get them to speak, to integrate them into the world, even separating them for a time. But this only made things worse. The separation was torture for both of them, and they withdrew even further into themselves, refusing to eat or even move until they were reunited. Inside their silent world, however, the twins were anything but quiet. They had a rich and complex inner life. They would lock themselves in their bedroom for hours, creating elaborate plays and soap operas with dolls. They were also prolific writers. They kept extensive diaries, documenting their thoughts, their fears, and their strangely intense love-hate relationship. They even saved up their lunch money to take a mail-order creative writing course. June wrote a novel called The Pepsi-Cola Addict, and Jennifer wrote The Pugilist. Stories were dark and disturbing, filled with characters who felt trapped and desperate to escape, reflecting the twins' own inner turmoil. Their diaries revealed a shocking reality. While they couldn't live apart, they also couldn't seem to live together peacefully. Their bond was a battlefield. One diary entry from Jennifer read, "We have become fatal enemies in each other's eyes. We feel the irritating, deadly rays come out of our bodies, stinging each other's skin." June wrote, "She wants me to be her, and she wants to be me. But we are two. We are separate." Their shared bedroom became a war zone, with violent fights that left them bruised and bloodied. It was a suffocating relationship where love and hate were so intertwined it was impossible to tell them apart. They yearned for individuality, but their connection was a chain they couldn't break. One twin's existence seemed to negate the others. As they entered their late teens, their frustration and isolation boiled over into the outside world. They began a spiral into delinquency, committing a series of petty crimes, vandalism, and even arson. They seemed to be crying out for help in the only way they knew how, lashing out at a world they couldn't be a part of. This crime spree was short-lived. In 1982, at the age of 19, they were arrested and faced a difficult legal process. The court, unable to comprehend their behavior, declared them psychopathic and sentenced them to an indefinite stay at Broadmoor Hospital. Broadmoor wasn't a prison. It was a high-security psychiatric facility, home to some of Britain's most notorious and violent criminals. For two young women whose only real crime seemed to be their pathological bond, it was a terrifying and completely inappropriate place. For 11 long years, June and Jennifer were trapped within its walls, The powerful antipsychotic medications they were given seemed to dull their creative spark. Their writing slowed, and the vibrant inner world they had built began to fade. Yet their strange pact continued. They would take turns eating. One day June would eat while Jennifer starved, and the next day they would switch. They continued to be a puzzle that no doctor at Broadmoor could solve. During their time at Broadmoor, they came to a chilling realization. They believed that for one of them to be truly free, the other had to die. It was a death pact, a dark agreement born from years of suffocating closeness. They decided that it would be Jennifer who would make the ultimate sacrifice. They confided this plan to only one person, the journalist Marjorie Wallace, who had been following their story for years and had become their only real link to the outside world. Marjorie was horrified and tried to talk them out of it, but their minds were made up. In March 1993, the news finally came. After 11 years, the twins were being released from Broadmoor and transferred to a lower security clinic in Wales, a step closer to freedom. On the day of the transfer, as they were leaving Broadmoor, Jennifer leaned her head on June's shoulder and whispered, "At last, we're out." But a little while later during the journey, she turned to Marjorie Wallace and said something that would haunt her forever. "Marjorie, Marjorie, I'm going to have to die." Within hours of arriving at the new clinic, Jennifer fell into a coma. She was rushed to the hospital but was pronounced dead. The cause of death was acute myocarditis, a sudden and severe inflammation of the heart. What was so baffling to doctors was that there was no evidence of any drug or poison in her system, no explanation for why her heart had suddenly failed. It was a medical mystery. Jennifer was only 29 years old. It was as if she had simply willed herself to die. A day or two later, Marjorie Wallace visited June. She found her in a bed, surprisingly composed. June looked at her and said, "I'm free at last, liberated. And at last Jennifer has given up her life for me." For the first time, June began to speak normally to everyone around her. The silence was broken. The surviving twin was finally able to live. Today, June Gibbons lives a quiet life in Wales, near her family. She is no longer silent. She has been able to build a life for herself, separate from the all-consuming shadow of her twin. The story of the Gibbons twins is a profound and unsettling look at identity, love, and the desperate need for individuality. Were they two souls trapped in a single psychic circuit? Or was their story a tragic consequence of social isolation and a mental health care system that failed them? We may never know the full truth behind their silent world. Their story remains a powerful reminder of the deep and sometimes dangerous mysteries of the human connection. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the world's most mysterious cases. See you next time.